Hey guys, what is going on out there today? It's Brent Abel here, webtennis.com, back with another episode of 7 Around 7. We are at 7:20 out here in the West Coast Pacific time zone. Happy Thursday to you. I've been on the road for a couple days, since Monday. Missed yesterday. My apologies for that, but it's just one of those days where kind of hit the road early and along the way just kind of never got to it. So anyway, hope you guys are doing well. Looking forward to getting back out in the grass courts this morning with, with the Big O and my buddy Haig, the Crazy Greek. Gonna be fun. So anyway, guys, let's see a couple things. What have I got for you? Yeah, look, if you want to support 7 Around 7, down below in the description area, there's a link that take you over to webtennisgear.com. Pick up a t-shirt or two or more or whatever, different styles, sizes, colors. And when you do, I'm going to give you, as my way of saying thanks, a gift, one of my $97 stroke technique courses, which is ironically what we're talking about today. But you get to choose one of those 7 courses, your choice. Again, my way of saying thank you. Down below is that link, webtennisgear.com. And as always, look, it really helps me out if you guys could like, share, leave a comment or a question. Always helps, especially with the YouTube algorithm, in terms of me being able to reach more tennis players out there. Give them the good stuff. Don't believe the hype. Oh, yeah. So, look, guys, what have I got for you today? Again, another thought I got from George Mumford and a couple things, a couple resources for you. Number one, his book, The Mindful Athlete. I almost said the mindless athlete, The Mindful Athlete, Secrets of Pure Performance. And there's also, he's done several interviews, but the one that I've listened to most recently is on the Tim Ferriss podcast, Ferriss, Tim Ferriss, and a great interview with George. And his backstory is incredible, the people that he's worked with, all that stuff. Anyway, one of the things that he talks about is that when you work on something, you can't just have a coach kind of copy and paste onto you whatever his philosophy is in terms of the way that, in terms of tennis, the way that technique ought to be hit. I mean, you just can't take one method and just lay it down on everybody. You can definitely take some fundamentals, right? And there aren't that many. I mean, if you think about the fundamentals of the game, what more is there? Greetings from Philippines. Say thanks, guys. What more is there than, number one, spacing, right? You've got to have the right spatial distance away from the path of that incoming ball consistently. If you're not, then you need to learn like a gazillion different types of stroke technique, because you're going to be improvising the entire time. So once you settle in on, well, what's the right technique you're going to use for, let's say, a forehand ground stroke, all you got to do is just recreate the right space away from the path of that incoming ball over and over and over again. Well, that's obviously a fundamental for any type of stroke technique that you're going to use. What else is there? I mean, fitness. Obviously, fitness is a huge component. Being able to compete at your highest skill level over and over and over again, right? I would say, more of a relaxed grip tension. Don't be so death grippy on the thing, right? So there's really not that many, pure fundamentals that you got to figure out. But so start there. But again, you've got to find a coach that will sit and observe and watch you play first without you going, because you might go to the guy and say, hey, look, I really need some help. I need some help with my forehand. All right. And I see it way too often. I used to do this. If you would come to me and said, hey, Brent, I need help with my forehand. All right, well, I'd go ahead and feed you some balls and look at it and go, probably not really think about you, but I think about, well, here's the method that I think that you ought to be using on your forehand, and lay it, kind of force feed you with it. As opposed to what I do now, someone comes and says to me, Brent, I need help with my forehand. all right, I'm going to go find, if you don't have someone, I'm going to find someone at your skill level. I'm going to watch you play a set of tennis first. The first lesson or the first 30 minutes is me watching you play and seeing what your instincts are in the forehand. And it could be that the technique that you've got in your forehand is absolutely fine, but that you're not adhering to that number one fundamental I just mentioned, which is spacing. You've got to recreate the ideal spacing for your forehand over and over and over again. And when you do, oh my gosh, guess what happens? You're consistent with it and you end up hitting it where you want to. Or maybe what I discover when I watch you play is that the technique in your forehand is fine, but you're pulling the trigger way too early, trying to see if you can end the point, when maybe just depending on the geometry of where you are in the court, where your opponent is in the court, it's just not lending itself to being able to do that. So that maybe you just need to stay in the point, one or two more shots. So I guess where I want to go with this thing is that if you're working on some technique in your game, number one is I would definitely stop trying to be in FYI, where you're trying to do it on your own, right? No, that's not it. FYI. It's a DYI. Well, FYI, for your information, don't be a DYI. How am I doing, babe?
You're real good.
I'm really good. Good. My eyes over there going, oh my God. How about the English language? Why don't you start with that fundamental? Anyway, so number one is don't try to figure this stuff out on your own. At least get someone to take a look at you who knows what they're looking at. And then secondly, whoever that person is, that they're not going to force feed you something that might not be ideal for you, right? So really what this comes back to is finding someone who, number one, will make sure that you are grounded in fundamentals. And like I tell you guys, 7 around 7 or all my instruction is basically coming from my experiences. What's worked for me and what's not worked for me. So really what I'm offering for you are options for you to consider. I'm not telling you that this is the one and only way to hit a forehand. I am telling you these are the fundamentals, and I don't care what kind of technique you've got. You've got to adhere to those. But then after that, you've got to actually be able to know what works and what doesn't work for you. And I think we've talked a lot about this lately, is that rather than when you make a mistake, and I don't totally want to get away from that because we do make mistakes, and we do want to go through that thing, well, what I meant to do instead, and dry rehearse it, right, as soon as the point's over, so that you tell your brain, well, this is what we really want to do. But I don't think there's enough learning, there's enough self-teaching, there's enough self-observing that when we hit that forehand right, that we actually don't do anything more than, yeah, baby, or yeah, all right, come on, whatever, as opposed to, God, I'd sure like to do that more, like to do it more often. And so to go back and dry rehearse a swing, right, no ball, in terms of what did that good forehand feel like? Well, recreate the feeling right after you hit the good one, so that you again confirm to your brain, this is what we want. And so kind of a muddled message today. But I don't want you to be thinking that just because you've got a coach or a teaching pro who's force feeding the same topper forehand technique on everybody, that you got to do that, or that because you're on YouTube going around and everyone's talking about topspin, that you got to figure that out. Come on, man. Let's do this. Let's get out there, play a set, videotape yourself a set, right? Of yourself, a set. If you don't know how to do that, find someone who can do it for you, right? And go back and look at and find, if the forehand's your problem, then go back in there and see what's going on, and don't be hugely critical in terms of, well, I hear about topspin, I'm not getting enough top. Well, maybe you're getting too much top. Maybe all your forehands are landing short because you don't really understand that full topspin technique, which is basically, I think you don't need it. It's too much technique. You need less, right? You need less for a ball that will penetrate through the bounce over there. You need less so that you can be more consistent, right? So look, I'm getting off topic real quick here today. But if you don't understand what I'm talking about, let me know down below in the comment section, what I can do to clarify it for you. But I guess I also want to put some responsibility on you as well to be able to know what's going on with your game a little bit more than just telling some guy, hey, just go ahead and take the new modern, what we see on TV, and just somehow jam that into my physical skills, jam that into my, mental whatever. You got to take some responsibility in terms of, number one, what are the fundamentals? Making sure you've got those. If you don't have those yet, then what are you doing with any other kind of technique until you've got fundamentals? And the fundamentals, I'll tell you, will tell you basically what your technique. Now that should have been the title of today's topic. Is the fundamentals are going to tell you what kind of technique that you should have. So, all right, guys, I'm done. I'm going to stop confusing you today. I'm going to get in the stationary bike, kind of crank out a little sweat before the tennis this morning, do a little core work, some stretching, be ready to go. Guys, again, like, share, comment, would really, really appreciate it. Again, helps me get the message out to a lot more tennis players than I am right now, which is always what I want to do. And if you want to pick up a t-shirt, a Web Tennis on YouTube t-shirt, down below is also the link to webtennisgear.com, where when you do that, I'm going to give you one of my $97 stroke technique courses, which are, gosh darn it, pretty darn simplified, right? Nothing crazy. All right, guys, that's it for me today. It is time for you and me and everyone. Let's get out there today. Help another human have a spectacular day. Guys, I'll see you again next time.